Before we get started, this video is a long-awaited request by many of the Subscribe Star Bros, and this movie fits into our theme of death pretty well. We've had the living dead, a man resurrected from death for revenge, someone who wanted to die, and now we have someone who can't die, whether he likes it or not. Yeah, this one's gonna be wild.
Do you know who they're sending?
Personally?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I mean, it's Vinny. He plays pinball, right? So.
Would you be broken up if I murdered him?
He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands.
He never died. So this is a film that's pretty unconventional by every definition. On paper, it's a supernatural action thriller that came out in 2015, directed by Jason Krajcisk, Lost World War II name, and starring Henry Rollins. It follows the mysterious Jack, an antisocial loner that stays away from human contact as much as humanly possible. He follows a strict routine of sleeping, playing bingo, going to a local diner for lunch, and buying illegal medical supplies. So it seems like a pretty typical mysterious stranger, hidden badass type story, and you're not wrong for thinking that. But He Never Died quickly shows there's a lot hidden under the surface. By the end, it becomes a completely different story. You think you know what movie you're getting, especially when it inevitably brings up that he has a daughter he's estranged with. You think this is a man on fire, man from nowhere style revenge story about sad badass protecting daughter figure. But He Never Died isn't that. It's not that in the slightest. But I can't mention much without spoiling. The most I'll say is that this is the kind of movie you're either gonna love or think is the dumbest thing in the world. Zero in between. When it introduces the more out there elements, it commits to them wholesale. And even then, you don't get a lot of answers. Simply showing you this situation and saying you have to take it or leave it. It's an indie movie down to its very bones, from the out there concept, switching around multiple genres in the same film, and doing what it can to not fall into typical tropes or cliches you'd expect from a thriller. Before going into any story details, I'll say I recommend the movie. Even if you end up hating it, it's certainly one with personality. One that you will not forget anytime soon. Personally, I thought it was endlessly fascinating and had me genuinely curious about the world they built, and Jack is a protagonist that I was excited to learn more about. He's not exactly the best human being, but he felt flawed in a natural way that was compelling to watch, especially when you realize what the film is really about. But I'm not gonna go into that just yet. Instead, let's talk a bit about the technicals. Visually, I think the movie looked pretty good all around. Despite being apparently really low budget, you don't really see it. And when I say low budget, I mean Henry Rollins made a joke that they were basically operating off 49 cents in a prayer. I couldn't even really find a solid number, so yeah, indie as fuck. It's also why you don't really hear a lot of music. It's there, but there's nothing that really stands out or screams that it's a focus. They have some licensed tracks that are pretty good, but it's only a handful. They still actually fit the tone pretty well. In fact, I really like the inclusion of Melancholy Man by the Moody Blues. I mean, that's just a great song. But the point is, you're not going to be hearing a lot of it. The violence in the movie is pretty satisfying. It has decent gore and some genuinely grisly moments. Blood and meat are big factors in the story, and they made sure to make the most of those moments when it was necessary. Sometimes it's genuinely trying to be fucked up, other times it's mainly played for a laugh. Which leads into the next point, the humor. He Never Died has a strange sense of humor to it. Not to mean that it's absurdist, instead it's the exact opposite. It is incredibly dry. It plays some jokes completely straight to the point that it takes a second to recognize it was a joke. Some are more obvious than others, such as Jack's love of bingo, but others take realizing that it's goofier compared to how grounded the rest of the movie can be. Jack himself is a very fascinating protagonist, and he is the main reason I found myself pulled into the movie. The guy has a lot of layers to him. To get it right out of the way, he's not a hero. In fact, the whole point of the story is exactly that. I won't say much for now, but a hidden aspect of the film is that everything in the movie is basically Jack's fault, which leads back into the humor aspect. A lot of jokes in the film basically revolve around Jack's inability to really act human. He seems like an alien in most scenes where he's just completely not getting how serious a situation can be, or he says something so out of pocket you do double take at it. This especially helps since they do play up the fact that he's not a good person. Really, it's more of a morality tale than a typical crime thriller, of this man going through an ironic punishment, which is fitting considering revelations in the movie. Still, he's the kind of protagonist where you're either gonna vibe with him or completely check out. He goes beyond just being a grump, he's genuinely sociopathic more than once, in ways where it can feel like we're following a total lunatic. From the awkward way he speaks with others, his closed-off nature, his impulsive decisions where he shows zero regard for consequences, Jack is a maniac. There's even a pretty significant plot point in the movie that he just forgets to save somebody, and he shows very little reaction to it. It's almost like he forgot to pay the water bill that day. It's interesting to see this detached, downright inhuman man that seems like he's just barely able to comprehend human behavior. If the movie revealed that he was an alien, I would have totally bought it by the end, but it doesn't. Instead, it shoots for arguably crazier shit. Alright, now I'm gonna put up the spoiler warning here. Check out He Never Died for going any further. This is a movie that helps to go in as blind as possible. Not saying spoilers completely ruin it, but some of these reveals are baffling out of context. And even with context, it's still pretty weird. So Jack's a fucking vampire. Yeah, I mentioned this was a supernatural thriller in the beginning of the video, and I wasn't kidding. Jack has been alive for centuries, forced to drink human blood to survive. He stays away from people due to not wanting to excite his thirst, and he sabotages every relationship he has as his way of protecting them. And enough time has passed that he's simply forgetting how to really act around people. The main emotional throughline in the film is his relationship with his daughter, Andrea, also the waitress at the diner he frequents, a woman by the name of Kara. They're the only real ties to mankind Jack has left, and even then it's tenuous and not really getting the job done. Because, well, Jack isn't just a vampire. He's fucking Cain himself.
It was pronounced Cain, but I'm known as Cain.
Yeah, the biblical Cain, the first murderer. Remember when I said this would get weird? So the movie goes to the idea that Cain has been damned to walk the earth for all eternity, forced to keep killing to sate his hunger. That's why I said the film eventually becomes more of a character study. You see Jack's attempt at living in a time in society he simply does not fit into. Every scene before the reveal has him stick out like a sore thumb. He's creepy, he's off-putting, and he seems like he actually has no idea how humanity works. Which makes sense when you consider he's been alive for thousands of years. He's seen so many different cultures and empires rise and fall. How is he supposed to remember social cues when those cues keep changing in what seemed like a blink of an eye to him? And him being the first murderer makes a lot of elements in the movie point to this more so being a story about Jack's damnation. You see, a running element in the movie is the mysterious man in black that seems to follow Jack. He only shows up a few different times, and the film points out that he's invisible to most every character, except under specific circumstances. You don't really know a lot about this guy. There are theories on who he is. Maybe he's death himself following Jack to remind him he can't die. Maybe he's an angel watching over his penance. The film doesn't say, which is a big aspect to He Never Died. You have no idea how this situation really works. The most we know is that Jack is Cain. He's a vampire that feeds on blood to survive, and he's been walking the earth while followed by a mysterious apparition that seems to taunt him. But let's not get too distracted here. What's the actual plot? Well, it's pretty light. Jack is living his daily routine when the medical student he buys blood from gets attacked by gangsters. Jack intervenes, which kicks off a domino effect resulting in his ex-wife being killed and his daughter being kidnapped. Jack tries to find her while struggling to contain his vampiric nature. Like I said, pretty shallow, because really the story is about Jack and who he is deep down. Usually with a story like this, it's about the protagonist rediscovering their humanity and earning redemption by saving a loved one. But He Never Died explicitly does the opposite. It shows multiple times that Jack deserved this, and he is the cause of everything. He is the architect of his own hell, which, considering the reveal that he is Cain, is pretty fitting. Now, I've talked about the story of Cain and Abel before on this channel, but here's a refresher for those that might not remember. The story goes that God asked the sons of Adam and Eve for tribute, the sons being Cain and Abel. Cain offered God his second best harvest of grain, intending on keeping the best for himself, while Abel offered God his best livestock. Abel was rewarded by God for his loyalty, and Cain, in a fit of jealousy, murders him. God then asks Cain where Abel is, and that's where you get the famous phrase, "I am not my brother's keeper," lying to God and denying what he did. God, already knowing that Cain murdered Abel, punished him by forcing Cain to walk the earth for eternity. It's a story about the evil nature of humanity, that even the children of the first two human beings on the planet were capable of murder and sin, a warning about what's hiding inside the hearts of every person. We're all capable of good and evil, and that evil can burst out for even something as ridiculous as God preferring livestock to grain. Cain knew he was shorting the deal by offering an okay tribute, while Abel went out of his way to give God the best he had. Yet, he was still insulted enough to kill his own brother. This aspect plays into He Never Died quite a bit, actually. They point out how Jack already destroyed his own life long before the story even begins. He's an antisocial loner that sabotages every relationship he's ever had. He can justify it to himself that it's to keep them safe, but you see more than once. That's not why. It's because he's a selfish, short-sighted man. Jack is evil, and the story knows this. Even the reason the gangsters go after his family is made clear that it was kinda Jack's own fault. You see, the gangsters are led by a man named Alex, played by Stephen Ogg. He's held a massive grudge against Jack for years since the death of his father, which Jack was responsible for. So the first chance he got at a legitimate reason, he gunned for his family. And because Jack is so insulated and only really cared about his own day-to-day, he wasn't there to protect them. He was never secretly watching over his family. He let his daughter basically become a drunk. And his ex-wife, well, that situation was not exactly healthy either.
I hate you.
Fuck you, Jack.
Abortions cost about $300. You could afford one?
It's one of those cases where the closer someone is to Jack, the more likely he is to just say the worst possible thing to you. It's the opposite of affection. Jack even reveals that throughout all of human history since he's been alive, he has been tied to mass slaughter and atrocities. Some for his own survival, others because he just liked to kill people. He never had to kill Alex's father. Granted, we never find out the context of why, but there's no possible situation he was in that would make him need to kill the guy. Jack's completely immortal. You could shoot him multiple times in the head and he is fine. Jack kills people because he likes it, which ties into his curse. The whole situation started because he murdered his own brother, so God cursed him with exactly that. If you like killing so much, have fun doing it for eternity. You might think that basically means God let a rabid animal out into the world, but remember, Jack is still technically human. He feels pain, he gets tired, and he does genuinely seem to yearn for some form of a normal life. He's been married and had kids, but his own evil prevents him from having any of it. The marriage he had with Gillian, the mother of his daughter, is downright absurdly hostile, and the relationship he has with Andrea is just barely held together as it is. The scene where he tells her to leave his apartment spells that out very clearly. Now you can think of it as Jack trying to protect her since he lost his supply of blood and was being consumed by his urges, but the shit he was saying had some serious venom behind it.
I don't understand why. What's
Get
going
out, you unaborted brat. I don't want you here. No one wants you.
You don't say that to someone you wanted to protect. The biggest aspect that he never died is that Jack is stuck in this cycle. He's probably seen this situation hundreds of times through the centuries. Even when the gangsters track him down to his house and seemingly have already killed his daughter, Jack just sounds bored. And yeah, I should mention that aspect. There's a part in the movie where Jack is expected to show up at a location under threat the bad guys will kill Andrea. He legitimately forgets this and only remembers when it's hours past the deadline, and he just doesn't seem to react to it.
Where is she, by the way?
She's probably with her mother at this point.
Sure, he's immortal and is probably well used to losing loved ones due to time, but the fact he doesn't seem to have any real consideration to the fact his daughter was in peril says a lot about the guy. Hell, he was way more focused on just rampaging around and trying to feed because he gave in to his urges again. There's even a scene where he goes to confront Alex before the finale, and Jack can clearly hear Andrea crying from behind a wall, but he doesn't make any effort to save her. And it's not like he couldn't try. Remember, Jack is immortal. He could have easily just killed everyone and plucked her out of there, but he chose not to. And I think it's because he just didn't care. Ironically, this is why God cursed him in the first place, because when the chips are down, he will default to evil. That's why the man in black shows up at the end to prevent Jack from killing Alex. Jack rants and raves that Alex is a monster who deserved to die, and Jack has already killed scores of people already, so why is this any different? And the man is essentially God or death or whoever going, "You're the guy talking about killing a monster?" The movie is basically about divine punishment. Jack ends the story just barely able to understand his role as a father, saving Andrea at the last possible second, with Kara being the one who all but demanded it from Jack. And if you want to look at it from a more cynical perspective, you can easily see this as just the beginning of the next cycle. He will eventually tank his relationship with Kara, she will despise him, Andrea will despise him, he will eventually lose them either due to time or the consequences of his past catching up to him again. It's just never going to end. He is doomed to walk this road forever. He Never Died's a very strange story, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't like it. You don't get a lot of answers, and it's a movie that's more about implying than really anything else. But the implications are open enough for you to headcanon and think about what you got out of the story. Personally, I see this as in the same universe as World of Darkness. This is what Cain does when nobody's looking for him. Do I have any proof? No. But fuck you, you can't prove otherwise. Stop Googling. I said stop Googling. But yeah, it's definitely not a movie that's easy to explain. I had fun with this though. I recommend it for people who want a more out there, strange type of film, but it's not something that's a guaranteed you'll love it. You might think it's a lot of bells and whistles tacked on to make a pretty typical story seem special, but that's something that comes down to whether or not you like the vampire gimmick and a lot of what they do there. And this is the kind of movie that can only really be broken down by how you personally saw it. Is it a dark comedy, a character drama, a horror movie, a crime action thriller? That all comes down to how you saw it. I should mention that there is a sequel, She Never Died, which follows a different protagonist in a similar situation of being cursed as an immortal. It's something that really should get its own video. The most I'll say is that it takes place in the same universe and has its own wild curveballs that try to flesh the setting out more and hint at a larger scale than the first movie. But it's pretty divisive. I've heard some people say they love it, other people say they wouldn't piss on this movie if it was on fire. Still, that's He Never Died. Just a quick, weird movie that'll leave you either satisfied or completely baffled at what you just saw. It's pretty easy to track this movie down to give it a watch. It's got a decent cult following. The sheer concept alone's enough to check out. And regardless, it's a fun movie. Not the most refined or really as in-depth as it could have been, but it's generally creative and knew what to focus on, building this fascinating protagonist in this strange supernatural world that you only get a taste of. If you want a more grounded urban fantasy movie, I guess this is pretty much in your wheelhouse. And I will say, it's a pretty good foundational film, serving as the first chapter to possibly a much larger scale and setting than we thought. Imagine if sequels introduced more out there fantasy elements, or did the opposite and wanted to be more biblical. Who knows? There's a lot you could do here. But you know what else you can do? Gamer subs, use code TAL at checkout. I'm delaying the inevitable. Gamer subs, it's waiting for me. Code TAL. I don't want to do it. Use the code. Use the code. I don't want to do it. Use the code, you failed abortion. But yeah, we're calling it here, because something is waiting for us. Dark, terrible, and nightmarish. We've had the living dead. We've had dead spirits avenging the dead. Someone who can't die. But soon, we'll cover something that should be fucking dead. Dead Rising 4. It's finally time. See you guys. Hey, loser. Do you want a shirt? Do you want a t-shirt? I have shirts now. Look in the description for a link to a t-shirt you can buy. If you don't buy the t-shirt, I'll kill your family. If you don't buy the t-shirt, I'll poison your dog. If you don't buy the t-shirt, you're going to be the only person in town that does not have a t-shirt. Everyone's going to look at you funny. There's going to be social consequences to not having one of these t-shirts. I'm now making express threats of violence against you if you do not buy my t-shirt. I will call the police, tell them how you're not buying my shirt. They're going to plant crack in your house, and they're going to arrest you and then beat you up in a jail cell. Buy my shirt.
He's got the whole world in his hands. 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 He's got the wind and rain in his hands. He's got the wind and rain in his hands. He's got the wind and rain in his hands. He's got the whole world 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 in his hands. He's got the little bitty baby in his hands. He's got the little bitty baby in his hands. He's got the little bitty baby in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got you and me, brother, in his hands. He's got you and me, brother, in his hands. He's got you and me, brother, in his hands. He's got the whole world 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 in his hands. He's got the whole world